Welcome to the silence, the kind that doesn't beg for attention, but demands it, the kind that lingers in the room long after you've stopped talking. That's silence, the heavy one, the cold one, the one that doesn't flinch. You've been quiet for a while, not because you didn't have something to say, but because the world wasn't ready to hear it. They laughed while you watched, they danced while you worked, they talked while you built. They thought your silence meant surrender, that you had given up, that you were a background character in their loud, ridiculous circus. But now they know, now they see. The silence wasn't weakness, it was war. It was the kind of stillness before a storm that swallows entire cities. You weren't gone, you were waiting. You weren't broken. You were building, and now they wonder why everything feels cold when you walk into the room, why the air shifts, why their skin crawls, why their laughter dies in their throat. Because now they know. You're not their entertainment. You never were. If you're still with me, then you already feel it, that stirring in your chest, that fire behind your eyes, that rage that's been quiet, patient, and cruel. It's not just about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about waking up the part of yourself they tried to kill, the part they said was too much, too intense, too real. Let them be scared. Let them whisper when you pass. Let them wonder what you're capable of. Because now, the game has changed. And before we go deeper, if you're feeling this, really feeling this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below with just one word: awake. That's all. Just awake. Let them know you're not hiding anymore. Let them know you're here. See, for the longest time, they fed off you. Your kindness, your light, your silence. You were the mirror they screamed into, without ever realizing it was their own reflection breaking. They poked at you, teased you, humiliated you, and every time you didn't react, they laughed harder. But you weren't ignoring them. You were watching, studying, understanding. You were collecting everything, every insult, every backhanded compliment, every fake smile. You turned your pain into power. And now they look at you with wide eyes, because the quiet one isn't laughing anymore. The quiet one isn't clapping for their jokes. The quiet one is standing taller, walking slower, breathing heavier. Now they're scared, and they should be, because you're not here to entertain. You're here to conquer. They thought your story was done, that the last page had already been written, but they forgot. You were just sharpening your pen. They confused your rest for retreat, your silence for surrender. But war was always won by those who waited, watched, and struck without mercy. You were never made for their approval. You weren't born to be clapped for, to be liked, to be understood. You were born to disrupt, to shift, to burn, so burn, light it all on fire. Let them feel what you felt when they looked through you like you were glass. This world doesn't need more entertainers. It needs reminders. Reminders that quiet doesn't mean soft, that silence doesn't mean safe, that the ones they ignore are the ones who always return the loudest. You're not back. You're unleashed. Every second you spent in the shadows was a second you were becoming unrecognizable. Stronger, smarter, colder. You stopped needing validation. You stopped waiting for permission. And now, when you speak, the ground listens. The walls listen. People stop mid-sentences because there's something about your voice that wasn't there before. Something raw, something jagged, something real. Let them feel uncomfortable. Let them squirm. You don't owe them comfort anymore. You don't owe them your softness. You were soft once. And they used it as a pillow while they stabbed you in the back. Never again. Now they'll see the version of you that doesn't blink, that doesn't flinch, that doesn't laugh when they expect you to, that just stares, cold, dead in the eyes, and lets the silence crush them. You are not here for their entertainment. You are here to haunt them, to remind them what happens when you underestimate the wrong one. They'll whisper, "What happened to you?" As if they didn't do it, as if they didn't push and poke and pick at you until something inside you snapped. They'll act like you changed, like you became heartless. But you didn't become heartless. You became honest. You stopped pretending. You stopped being what they wanted and started being what you needed. And the truth is terrifying to people who live in lies. You are not cruel. You are not cold. You are clear, crystal, and clarity cuts deeper than any blade. It doesn't scream. It slices, quietly, cleanly. The ones who laugh the loudest are the ones who are silent now. Funny, isn't it? How their confidence dried up the second you looked them in the eye and didn't look away. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't threaten. You just stood there. And the weight of everything you didn't say crushed them more than 1,000 words ever could. That's real power. Power isn't noise. Power is presence. And now, you're present, fully, completely. They feel it when you walk in, like a storm approaching, and they don't know whether to run or to kneel. Remember how they tried to convince you to be smaller? "You're too much," they said. "Tone it down," they said. But they never once tried to understand you. They didn't want you powerful. They wanted you pretty and quiet and clapping for their mediocrity. But now you've stepped into something they can't dilute, they can't control. You don't fit in their box anymore. You burned it, and now you're standing in the ashes, eyes glowing, heart beating like war drums. They don't know what to do with you anymore, so they label you angry, cold, dangerous. And maybe they're right. Maybe you are dangerous. But only to the fake, to the shallow, to the liars, to those who confuse kindness with weakness and silence with submission. You're a weapon now, not because you wanted to be, but because they made you one. And weapons don't apologize. They don't seek approval. They don't hesitate. You've earned your rage. You've earned your silence. You've earned this moment. And now, every second you breathe, they remember what they did to you, what they lost, what they created. They stare because they don't recognize you, but you do. You finally see yourself clearly. You finally see what they were trying to hide from you all along. Your power, your fire. Your silence was never empty. It was loaded, ready. And now the trigger's been pulled. You are not here for applause. You are here for impact. And whether they cheer or tremble, they will remember. They will feel you, long after you've left the room. That's what happens when someone stops being entertainment and becomes a storm. You're not smiling anymore, and that scares them. Because they know the smile used to be a shield, and now that it's gone, nothing's protecting them. You're not entertaining anymore. You're exposing, revealing, shattering illusions. You are the silence that follows truth. The stillness after an explosion, the breath before the next hit. You are no longer their joke. You are their reckoning. And they'll say it's not fair, that you've changed. But fairness died the moment they laughed at your pain, the moment they clapped when you fell. So let them taste the silence. Let them drown in the quiet. You didn't ask to become this. But now that you are, don't you dare shrink. Don't you dare apologize. Let your silence roar. Let it echo. Let it devour everything fake and fragile in its path. You've been quiet for a while. Now they know. Now they feel. Now they whisper your name with caution. Now they check the room before they speak. Now they realize they were playing with something they didn't understand. You are not a phase. You are not a moment. You are a movement, a force, a warning. And above all, you are done being anyone's entertainment. Let them be scared. They should be. They laughed. Now they're silent. They mocked. Now they stare. You were quiet for a while, but now the silence is theirs and yours. Yours has become the loudest sound they've ever heard. So you're still here. Good. Because what's coming next, what you're about to walk into, is not for the faint-hearted. This isn't motivation wrapped in pretty words. This is for those who felt the weight of betrayal so heavy it cracked their spine. For the ones who kept their mouth shut while everyone else used theirs like a weapon. This is for those who sat at tables with people who couldn't wait to cut them down the second they turned their back. This is for the ones who disappeared for a while, not because they lost their way, but because they were reforging their soul in silence. You're not the same. You know it. They know it. Everyone feels it. You've grown into something unrecognizable, something that doesn't flinch when the room turns hostile, something that doesn't need to be liked or clapped for or pitied. You're not bitter, you're focused. And focus terrifies people who thrive on distraction. They want the old version of you, the one who smiled while bleeding, the one who stayed quiet while being torn apart. But that version died quietly in the dark. And what rose from the grave is something they were never prepared to face. You no longer speak to be understood. You speak to be heard, or you don't speak at all. You've learned that silence isn't a void, it's a blade. It cuts deeper than any insult. And now, when you walk in silence, you carry every version of yourself that they tried to bury. You've stopped performing. You've stopped tap dancing for their approval. You're not a puppet anymore. You don't move when they pull the strings. And now, they're left fumbling, trying to figure out why their jokes don't land, why their energy doesn't touch you, why your eyes don't soften anymore. Let's make something clear. You didn't change overnight. No. You died slowly, piece by piece, smile by smile, until there was nothing left but the truth. And when you met that truth, when you stared it down in your darkest hour, you didn't run. You welcomed it. That's when everything shifted. That's when silence became your sword. That's when they lost control. Because the moment you stopped needing them, they lost all power over you. You want to know why they're scared of you now? It's not your voice. It's not your words. It's your energy. It's the way you look at them without looking through them. It's the way you listen, not to respond, but to watch. It's the way you've become still, like a predator who knows exactly what it's capable of. It's not rage that terrifies them. It's composure. That calm that says, I've already survived worse than you. I don't need to prove anything. People don't know what to do with someone who doesn't need attention, who doesn't need to be the loudest, who doesn't chase the spotlight because they are the fire. You used to explain yourself. Now you just leave. You used to argue. Now you just smile. You used to hope they'd change. Now you accept what they are and make sure they never get that close again. And that's what burns them. That's what eats at them in the quiet hours. You're not playing the game anymore. You flipped the board and walked away without a sound. They'll tell others you're acting different. They'll say you've changed. But what they'll never say out loud is that they're the reason you changed. They'll never admit that their words, their disrespect, their mockery lit the fuse. You were quiet, yes, but not blind. You saw everything. You heard everything. And now, you move like someone who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. And when you carry yourself like that, the world listens. There's something in you now, something cold, something still, something that doesn't need revenge, because success is its own violence. You don't speak to hurt, you speak to end. And when you choose to stay silent, that's when they feel the most pain. Because now, your silence says more than your words ever could. It says, I've outgrown you. It says, I've already won. It says, you will never hurt me again. People used to mistake your patience for weakness, but what they didn't see is what you were doing with that time. You were studying, training, healing. You were pulling every shard of yourself back together, not to be who you were, but to become what they feared. And now, they don't just see you, they feel you. They flinch when you speak. They shift when you enter. Because deep down, they know they built this. Every fake laugh, every backstab, every time they used your silence as a stepping stone, they built the very force they're now afraid of. You're not here to be palatable anymore. You're not here to make them comfortable. You're not here to be liked. That time is gone, and it's never coming back. You are the reminder that not everyone breaks the way they expect. Some of us break open, and when we come back, we don't ask for space, we take it. We don't knock, we enter, and we don't explain ourselves ever again. Because if you have to explain your worth to someone, they were never worthy of your presence in the first place. You are not cruel. You are not evil. You are not bitter. You are awake. And when someone fully wakes up to who they are, to what they survived, there's no turning back. The masks come off. The chains fall away. The need to be accepted, to be liked, to be understood, it all vanishes. Because now, you accept yourself, you like yourself, you understand yourself, and that is what scares them most. They thought you were quiet because you were weak, but now they know. You were quiet because you were dangerous. You were silent because you were sharpening. You were still because you were becoming. And now that you've arrived, fully, fearlessly, they can't unsee what they tried to ignore. They can't unfeel what you've become. You walk with weight now. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You just exist. And the world reacts. So let them ask, why is everyone so scared of you now? Let them whisper. Let them wonder. Let them feel it in their bones. Because the answer is simple. You stopped performing. You stopped apologizing. You stopped playing small. You stopped being their entertainment. You stepped into your power. And now you are the storm they cannot outrun. Now you are the silence they can never silence. Still here? Good. Because this is where it gets darker. This is where you look in the mirror and you don't flinch. Where you see everything they tried to kill in you, alive, breathing, stronger. This is not the rise they were hoping for. This is the rebirth that terrifies them. Because they didn't expect you to survive. Not like this. Not louder without speaking. Not colder without rage. They thought you'd crawl back. They thought you'd beg for a seat again at their broken little table. But now, Now you don't even see that table anymore. You are the table. There is no revenge coming. There's no dramatic comeback. Because those things require emotion, and you've left that behind. You're not chasing anything now. You're not proving anything. You're just walking, and they're getting crushed by every step you take. Because your movement, your silence, your existence now, it exposes them. It exposes how small they were, how loud their laughs were only when you were down. And now that you're standing, they're shrinking, and they don't know why. But you do. The silence they once laughed at, now it follows them. Now they're quiet. Now they don't know what to say. They're not sure what changed, but something about your presence feels heavier. Something about your eyes feels like they've seen too much to ever be impressed again. Something about your calm feels like a loaded gun just resting on the table. And suddenly, they're the ones walking carefully. Suddenly, they want your approval, your time, your validation. But it's too late. You're not handing that out anymore. That version of you, dead, buried, forgotten. You used to walk into rooms and hope people liked you. Now you walk into rooms and they hope you don't see right through them. You used to play dumb so others could feel smart. You used to soften your truth so they wouldn't break. But now you realize they deserve to break. Because they built themselves on top of you. They made a show out of your silence. And now that you're not clapping anymore, their performance feels hollow. The spotlight burns, and they want it off. Because now they realize you were never the audience. You were the entire theater. You are the standard now. You are the moment. And that's why they talk. That's why they whisper. That's why they stare. Not because you're loud, but because you stopped entertaining. And when someone who used to make others comfortable suddenly walks in with presence, with precision, with power, it shakes everything. People don't know what to do with someone who doesn't care if they stay or leave. They can't control someone who doesn't react. And they sure as hell can't manipulate someone who has learned to sit in their own silence and enjoy it. And let's be honest, it wasn't just them, was it? There were moments where even you thought you were the problem, where you second-guessed your instincts, where you thought, maybe I am too much, maybe I do need to tone it down. But no, you were never too much. They were simply too little. They weren't prepared for your intensity. They weren't built for your truth. And so they tried to mold you into something easier to swallow, something smaller, something quieter. But you can only shrink for so long before your soul starts screaming. And that scream, it's what they feel now, not as a sound, but as a force. They thought your silence meant absence, but now they understand. It was restraint. And restraint is terrifying, because it means you could have said something. You could have destroyed them, but you didn't. Not because you couldn't, but because they weren't worth it. That kind of self-control, it echoes, it lingers, it haunts. It's why they avoid eye contact now. It's why their jokes fall flat. It's why they can't look at you without feeling the weight of everything they once did. Because your silence is a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. So what do you do now? You keep walking, you keep building, quietly, consistently, mercilessly. You no longer seek revenge, you embody it. Every time you level up, every time you evolve, every time you walk away instead of explain, you make a statement louder than any scream. I survived you. And not only did I survive, I became untouchable. That's the kind of pain to power transition they can't comprehend, because they've only ever known how to destroy, not transform. You've become the blueprint now. You've become the one people whisper about. Not because you're scandalous, not because you're loud, but because you are unshakable. And in a world built on performance, masks, and noise, being grounded, quiet, and real is the most terrifying thing you can be. So be it. Own it. Wield it. Let your silence break everything they built on your back. Let your stillness become the earthquake beneath their lies. Let them talk. Let them ask why everyone's scared of you now. Let them theorize, assume, misinterpret. It doesn't matter. You've outgrown the need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You've been quiet for a while, but they forgot what comes next. What always comes next. The raw, not loud, not obvious, but deep, low, inevitable.